Hello and welcome to Willow Talk. Adam Peacock here with Alyssa Healy, El Capitan. Welcome back to the studio once again.
Great to be back.
Bit to talk about. And Callum Ferguson, who is stepping in for a sick Brad Haddon.
Thanks for having me,
That's
guys.
an upgrade again. Ferg, how are you?
Yeah, really well. Really well.
He is crook, actually, Hads. He'll be right, though.
He was supposed to come and hit me balls at training and he wasn't
was he?
there.
Oh,
So
come
maybe
on,
he is
Haz.
maybe he's actually sick.
No.
Hopefully he'll be back later in the week, but if not, we'll get a better guest in again, so it's all good. We're going to have a look at Australia's men's one-day series against the Windies here from one of Australia's 4 recent debutants, Lance Morris, Wild Thing, or actually his nickname is a little different to Wild Thing, but we'll get to that in the chat. We'll get the lowdown on Australia's women's team success over South Africa. It's an absolute pummeling on the weekend.
Job.
Ferg, weren't you happy you
I
could
was
get
there.
home to put the kids in bed?
I was. I drove in the driveway before 7 p.m. Incredible.
Exactly. And we're going to finish with our risers and fallers. And I reckon, looking at the rundown that producer Sam's put together, that is the biggest list of risers and fallers we've had as well, including a plug for another podcast. So you know you're going well when the network is asking you to plug other podcasts that have nothing to do with cricket. But until then, we're going to talk nothing but cricket. And before we get into the show, thanks to those who have got in contact with us since we last spoke. We had dozens of people send us a link of the footage of Sean Tate bowling to Hads, that story that he told about him falling flat in his face.
Brilliant.
It's fair to say that our dear friend Hads put a little bit of mayo and mustard and about
Really?
every other
Who would've
condiment
thought?
you could
Who would've thought?
find
No way.
on that story.
Don't believe you.
And we're going to shirt front him when we see him next about it. Now, if you want to reach us, flick us a DM on Instagram or TikTok and find us by searching Willow Talk Podcast or hit the link in the episode notes. But we're going to start with Australia Windies. Australia win the series. We head to Canberra on Tuesday, which is the day that you're listening to this, hopefully, for the third game in Canberra. Smash up at the MCG and a belting at the SCG. Guys, what have we taken from these 2 games so far?
There's depth in Australian cricket. That's probably the best way that I look at it. I mean, yes, the Windies are fighting hard, but I think the most impressive thing is we've got some young cricketers coming through that are finally getting an opportunity and fitting in at international level, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool to see Matt Short batting in the middle order and actually making a really good fist of it and looking the part. It's not always easy coming into international cricket when you've spent most of your time in the top order recently to come in against quality spin and get going from ball one. And I thought the partnership, the couple of partnerships he was able to be involved in with Green and then Sutherland a bit later, Abbott a bit later on, I thought they were fantastic and showed that he's got the game to actually set up a launch late in the innings because we found ourselves in a bit of trouble. But the West Indies went in without the leggy, which hurt them enormously once they had us 5 for less than 100.
That was one of the weirdest selections I've ever seen. He must have had a little niggle or something. I wasn't feeling 100%. Other than that, you can't work it out because it's old school SCG wicket, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it
turning.
was.
Everyone knows that it's turning.
It was dry. The curator had a good inclination, having prepared it, spoke to everyone that was willing to talk to him that it was going to turn, and they've gone without the leggy, who had shown some great signs and actually been a big wicket taker over in the Caribbean against the Australians a few years ago now. He's the one guy that's actually gotten on top of the Australian batting order at some stage in recent history, and they went in without him. It was incredible.
Good for Sean Abbott, the SCG game. Home deck, SCG, he's done it for sixes time and time again, but for the all-round performance, taking wickets, top scoring as well. He seems like a guy, and you guys could tell me more about how he's felt about in Australian cricket, but it seems like a guy where everyone watching that would have been happy for him, overjoyed almost for him that he gets the plaudits and a Man of the Match award.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it couldn't have been set up any better for him. I mean, playing at the SCG and doing that. But what I loved the most, just watching the game, was he's standing on the drive next to, some debutants, some young bowlers, and he's like helping him out. Like, this is a length you want to be bowling here at the SCG. He was chatting to them the whole time, and I love that. Still from someone young in their international career, but's been around a long time, sort of helping out the younger players, and that's exactly how you keep that depth going. So, yeah, really happy for him. He is one of those cricketers that everybody wants to see do well. He's had an interesting career so far, but, yeah, nice to see him just digging in. I think with the bat more impressively, we can know what he can do with the ball.
With the quicks for that SCG game, so Hazelwood came back in, late inclusion. Did they call the three of them and Hoff was the only one to answer his phone? Like Paddy and Mitch couldn't be found?
I did ask Mitch that. I was like, oh, Josh is playing. And I know Mitch was saying that Josh was thinking about having a couple of the white ball games anyway because he's not playing IPL. And I was like, Mitch, you didn't want to play? I was like, nah.
It's nice to have the choice.
Straight down the barrel, that was it. No thanks.
So good on him. I mean, he's available to play. He doesn't have as hectic a schedule as some of the others with Bub coming along. So, I mean, if you get an opportunity and you want to play some white ball cricket, why not?
The key is for me though, Ferg, is that you've got someone like Josh Hazlewood to come in. And Lance Morris is sitting that one out, and Xavier Bartlett as well. He was rested because he had stress fractures earlier in the summer or recovering from. It's like, okay, Josh Hazlewood knows SCG pretty well. This is how you deal with it at international level. Steve Smith there. You don't bring in 4 or 5 new guys and go, do your best. And there's not much experience around it. That's the perfect blend.
It really was. And I loved, actually, you talked about the innings that Sean Abbott played, and that's not really a flash in the pan, but probably more he got the opportunity to bat longer than what he usually does, and the leadership he showed. You could see the conversations happening out in the middle with Will Sutherland, who is a leader in his own right within the domestic scene in Australia, but to see him able to guide a young player into the contest, into the game, that was his first, stepping out onto the field for the first time at international level, to see that partnership blossom, and it would have been a really nice way for Will Sutherland to get into international cricket, and then Sean Abbott showed what he can do. So the leadership opportunity for Sean Abbott's a huge one because he actually led the attack down at the MCG, and he talked about it with us post-game, how it was someone mentioned it to him, you're going to be leading this attack, and he was like, actually, you're right. I hadn't really thought about it.
All of a sudden, you're old.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's out in front, charging in the bowl, leading the attack. And you're right. You just start to feel a bit older than what you probably are.
It's a bit like when your kid starts high school. You go, the frig did that happen? All of a sudden, I've got to be extra responsible. I'm not going to be telling these people what to do in life.
That's it.
I'm not even ready to do that myself, to myself in the mirror.
You're
It's
telling
weird.
me that when Megan Raich retired and I realised I was the oldest player in the team, and that hit me like, hit me like there, and I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
I have to be the responsible one now?
I remember organising my first birthday for my daughter, and I was like, hang on a second, this isn't right.
This can't be right.
I've got to actually grow up.
The debutants that we've seen so far from an Australian perspective in this series, Xavier Bartlett, bowled like freaking Terry Alderman in his heyday at the MCG, but then gets rested. And I mentioned it was, and we've spoken about this, I think it was last week, about when what do they call them now? The SSM?
That's it,
Triple SM, whatever it is. They get involved and say, oh, he's redlining or she's redlining. No, can't play. Are we in the new age where we're not thinking, oh, that's a joke? Wouldn't happen in my day. Or is there still a little bit of that because he performed so well? You would have loved to seen him play at the SCG on that deck.
Well, it's an interesting one, right? I think, I look at it and go, if there was more management around someone like Pat Cummins earlier, would he have had a longer
6 years off playing a test match?
Yeah, would he have been going a lot longer? But then on the flip side of that, I also feel like I was born in the wrong era, and I sometimes agree that we rest people unnecessarily. So I'm sitting on the fence a little bit.
Okay.
I get both sides. But I think if he's
Company
coming
woman
off
over
here. He's, splinters. If he's coming off a significant injury like that, I completely get it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is a shame because he did really well, and then he's his first crack at international level. You kind of want to keep going, right?
Yep.
So I hope the decision was made by the right people, if that makes sense.
I sit the other side.
Old school.
No. Sorry.
Oh,
I sit
New age.
on one side of it, new age, because I look at it, and I'm a batter, so it's probably a little bit different. We're not going to get rested too often. What are we on about? But I like the idea of trying to have each bowler out there really pushing up towards 100% fitness, ready to run in and bowl fresh as a daisy as often as possible. And if that means rotation, then I think it keeps the Australian team bowling unit at its near optimum best more often. So I go that way from a competitive point of view. What gives us the best chance to win more games of cricket? And I view it that way. I'm probably someone who saw a bit of the old school at the start of my career and now seen the back end, and I've seen the benefits of what it can do.
But also you look at it from a and I've said depth like 4 times already in this show, and
Yeah.
it's like the first 5 minutes. But then you look at it from that perspective, because let's say we're rolling out our best 11 every time. None of these guys are getting a go
Yeah.
unless there's an injury. So from that perspective, it's actually good to see new people inside getting an opportunity. And even though, Xavier just got in there, it then gives an opportunity to someone like Will Sutherland to come in and experience international cricket too. And what that's going to do for Australian cricket moving forward is going to do it wonders.
Down the line. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, we'll see what happens over in New Zealand.
I
Because
think did I get you to jump one side there?
yeah, I think so.
I think
Oh,
you came
yeah.
across.
Yeah,
Yeah, good. I
Got
like
there in
it.
there. Got there in
Keep
there.
everyone
discussion,
happy.
though. Yeah,
I'm
that's
still
it.
involved. I've got to keep everyone happy.
That's right. Well said.
Hey, it's what's being a captain is. Lance Morris at the MCG didn't quite click for him. I got the feeling he was the effort was maybe too much, as in trying to make things happen rather than them just organically happening. Now, it's easy to say because who's to say that Xavier Bartlett wasn't over-trying and they just came off.
Yeah.
But it looked like that with Lance, and he got a good view of it from the sideline on Sunday, and we'll see if he plays in Canberra.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I looked at it a little bit differently. I thought up front he was offering the perfect balance for the attack. I thought Xavier Bartlett he was bowling at good pace, but he was operating high 130s, maybe touching 140, while Lance was in the mid 140s. And when you've got that balance, quite often the openers are going, I need to just get in line with this guy. He's bowling quick. And then they might see someone bowling off that top speed at, high 130s. We got to attack this guy. And it worked out perfectly because Bartlett got it in great areas, moved it off the straight considerably early on and caused all sorts of damage because they were attacking him quite fiercely because they were potentially worried about the pace at the other end. We've seen it all through Australian history where we've had high-quality swing bowlers mixed in with some high pace. And certainly I think Brett Lee did that for a long time for our quicks who were more skill-based at the other end. And that balance works really well. And I think that Morris had a really positive impact, particularly in his first spell. I think maybe he just got a bit off track later on, but early on it was good.
We'll hear from Lance in a moment. Will Sutherland, best player in his family? Probably not, eh? Not yet.
He's the last one to debut, isn't he? So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's right.
I think he said he's not. I maybe misquoted there, but I feel like he's come out and said that he's not. But Belzy's bloody good.
Yes.
He is.
Yes.
Wow.
So
he's got a bit to beat.
the backyard cricket must have been elite.
Oh, yeah, imagine that.
James sending him down when they
Yeah,
were little.
that's right.
Seriously.
Fantastic. And good to see him take a grab that using his old skills from footy as
Good
well.
dukes, weren't they? Big buckets.
Yeah. Jake Fraser-McGurk. So 5
right,
balls, 10 runs, that's 6. Just set it alight, and it felt like the air went out of the room big style when he got out. It was like, we just needed 45 minutes of that because it was so much fun to watch. So there's a little teaser about what he can do. What next? Because it's not easy to debut, but it's harder to back it up and match a reputation. So he's obviously got a big reputation within Australian cricket circles. Where does it go next 12 months?
Well, I think that's for him to work out. I mean, clearly, when you're picking somebody like that in a one-day squad, you're literally saying to him, we don't want you to change what you're doing. Go out there and bat the way you do. And that's the way he bats. It's going to come off or it's not going to come off, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what's next over the next 12 months, what sort of teams that he'll be in. But if they continue to give him opportunities, then he'll work out in his own mind what works well for him in international cricket, I think.
He just needs a stack of games, does he not, Ferg? And it doesn't really matter if it's in Australian colours or even if it's second 11 stuff. He just needs a stack of games and time to work it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's really now worked out what is his best way going forward. And also, I think the Australian selectors realise that Glenn Maxwell's not going to be around forever. We're going to need an X factor at some point who can bat all the way through the top 6, which is Glenn never really got to the top of the order too often, but Fraser-McGurk has, and he's now potentially a 1 to 6, 7 type operator, which is highly valuable if they can get it right for him, get him plenty of game time, like you said, which is spot on. We haven't had too many guys come in and break a record like the fastest one-day domestic 100
In list day cricket, full stop.
Ever. A.B. de Villiers held the record, and this young, early 20s, top order, redback, renegade has done it, and I think the selectors have done the right thing and brought him in early.
Do you think though, then maybe they could mix the order around a little bit. Like, would there be potential for maybe Matt Short to come up and then Fraser-McGurk to roll down? Like, would that be the way that they might look at it moving forward? Or will they just go, look, you're going to open the batting, we're going to stick with you for however many games it might be? Will they go that way, or could they just roll him through the middle?
My gut feel is they'll give him a crack in one position for a period of time and then maybe look to give him an opportunity in another spot in the order as well. Because that ability to hit 360 with that sort of power is unique and it's such an asset to any side. So I was surprised he went to the top straight away. I thought they might have gone short up there. But now that they have, I'd like to see him up there and with a few opportunities and then give him an opportunity back down a bit later on. But what an asset. Geez, if he gets going.
Well, I mean, because we've got David Warner floating around still in T20 cricket, right? And so, like, talking about the World Cup, there's this young kid sitting there waiting that would be perfect for that sort of opportunity. So I wonder what they're going to do.
Exactly. And Matt Short, our dear friend Hads, was saying that he gets the feeling that Matt Short is like for Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's his set.
Well, that was,
from
and
the
I think
selectors.
I mentioned earlier, it was great to see Shorty come in the middle order and start against some quality spin. Moti was bowling really nicely, and he was able to get a start, keep it ticking over, go at nearly a run a ball without looking in too much trouble at all. So
Unlike
that's
the
a good
Windies.
sign.
Sure hope.
Oh, goodness me.
Dink him. Look like me.
Battered them into a hole.
Ball up the
Come on,
square.
Don't be too harsh on yourself.
But averaging 50 in international cricket.
Well, he wasn't yesterday, let me tell you. He had a...
He was striking at 50.
He was
but
having
that's right.
almighty battle with his own technique and things like that. The poor guy couldn't. Anyway, hopefully it sorts itself out on a truer deck at Manuka. Just on Jake as well, and I asked you this off air yesterday, how in God's name is he playing for South Australia? With all due respect to South Australian cricket, how did Victoria let him go?
Yeah.
What the hell happened there?
It's actually interesting. I'd spoken to quite a few people in the Victorian system and they weren't overly surprised that he ended up out of the Victorian system. And I outsider looking in, I found it really difficult to understand. One of the youngest they've ever had debut in first-class cricket and obviously hadn't set the world alight in the Big Bash yet, but everyone was understanding of the talent he had. So for the South Australians, it's a no-brainer. It's not that easy to find a top 3 or 4 draft pick in footy terms. They don't come along every day. So that was a no-brainer for the Redbacks. I think you as a Victorian setup, I think they just lost patience. That's as an outsider looking in. He hadn't had a great run in grade cricket, but he'd actually done well in second 11. So I would have been prioritising that probably as, you know, a truer sense for how he was tracking. But anyway, it's a great result for the Redbacks.
It seemed like the new environment has helped him, though, and I think he's spoken about that too.
Yeah.
Just getting out of there and getting away from everyone maybe talking about him and the expectations on him, getting out of that and probably having to prove himself in a new environment probably did him some wonders.
I don't know what his social activities are like Melbourne, maybe a bit more temptations, although, Ferg, Hindley Street on a Saturday night.
Yeah, avoid that at all costs.
It's an interesting place.
No, I don't think he'll be lurking around there. Peel Street or Lee Street, bit classy.
Cam Green, impressive with the bat, although he played a rueful shot that he was still filthy with himself as he walked across the rope at the SCG. And then he chimes in with that catch, which was extraordinary.
Oh, yeah.
But he played a couple of shots, 2 on drives off Joseph, which were picture perfect. Got the question going: what's the prettiest cricket shot?
Ooh.
What's the best looking cricket shot? Is it the on drive? My personal view, and shoot me down here, I've got 2.
Okay.
A Virat Kohli style cover drive where the balance is just like it'd take a boulder to knock him off his balance, and it's straight through the covers.
Yep.
And the old Mark Waugh, even with the collar up as well. Sunny's on in the airport.
Yes.
No, but Mark Waugh flick off the pads a little full, even something that's still on off stump, and he was just able to just go whoop, flick it.
With the back heel kicked up.
Yeah, the old
out the back
Slazenger
as
just
well.
going straight through it. And
That's the one.
they're the 2, like, fantastic. Even above the on drive for me. But what about you guys?
It's hard to argue with.
Yeah,
I probably lean towards the full flow of the back cover drive rather than the check drive. Just for me, I think aesthetically it looks pretty pleasing on the eye.
And it skids across the ground as
Yeah,
well.
it
No
does.
jumpy, whatever like that. What's your...
Well, yeah, from an aesthetic point of view, I think the cover drive is still the best looking shot, but I think from a skill perspective, the on drive is up there.
Yeah.
Like,
It's harder?
Well, from skillfully, yes, it is
Yeah.
actually harder
Why is
because you've
that?
got to be perfectly balanced.
Okay.
Your head's
So
got to
keep
be in
your
the
head
right
up.
position.
Yep.
Foot's got to be in the right position to play the shot
Yep.
where it needs to go. So, from a skill wise, I think it is the best shot in the game. But the cover drive and the flick off the pads are like the flashy
Yeah.
shots, aren't
That's
they?
it.
The Meg landing
exactly
6
right.
off her legs over the backward square.
Pick
Yeah,
up
it looks
over
good.
lead. Yep.
But yeah, on drive, go on. Yeah.
So I would have thought a cover drive would have been a little hard because maybe you have to move a bit more weight to do it. But you're saying the on drive is there more risk involved because maybe the ball's darting back?
I think
a
part of the
little back,
reason is because naturally your head will fall across to the offside just with the stance and the nature of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, and because of that, to get your head going back towards mid-on, to get your body weight going through the on drive, keep the full face of the bat on it, it's a much harder shot. So it's all about your centre of gravity and where your head's at.
You can be off balance and hit a cover drive. You can't be off balance and hit an on drive. So it's a sign of where you're at.
I'm just happy back in the day when I was playing junior cricket to block it. That was my pretty shot. Just don't get out and then have to retire because I've been in for too long.
Picture of your batting that I don't like.
No, it wasn't a lot of power involved, Ferg. Let me tell you right now. It was survival
You
mode.
always need them in your team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I gave it away when I came out in army fatigues in terms of survival. So, yeah. Decent crowds given the time of year, but let's be honest, they're never going to pack houses again, the one-day internationals. And it's purely to do with the fact that Big Bash, that's where people's expenditure goes. There's only so much people can spend on tickets. I got sent a ticket yesterday. It was on social media, actually. It's $100 for a ticket if you want to sit in a certain seat at a one-day international. Now, if you want to go and put a KFC bucket on your head with the kids and everything like that, it's going to cost you around that. So, appetite-wise, BBL has superseded one-day internationals. I've got a theory. Shoot me down if you want.
Ready?
That they should, in non-World Cup one-day international years, or maybe alternate them. So this year's a T20 World Cup year. Have a T20 tri-series, like the old Benson and Hedges days. Are we allowed to mention that? Smoking? Anyway, don't smoke, kids. It's horrible stuff. But, the World Series Cup. 3 teams. It was always interesting. There was 3 or 4 games a week. Do that right off the back of the Big Bash. T20 fatigue, perhaps. But gets 2 international teams in and play a bit of a tri-series. I don't know, 6 games, then a final. Thoughts?
Yeah.
No.
All I'm saying, and I don't want to get drawn into the schedule battle because it's an absolute nightmare, but the timing's hard, right? If you put that tri-series in, you need to get 3 teams there for an extended period of time. Where are you fitting that in the schedule? That's the issue.
Yep.
So, great in theory and probably would work, but that's going to be hard to do. My thing with the crowds is like ODI cricket at the moment is in a weird place. Like it's still one of my favourite format. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like ebbs and flows. I think it's good, which people apparently don't like. But hey, as cricketers, we love it.
I like one-day cricket.
But what we've got in Australia is like England do it well over there because they've got boutique grounds that only seat 15,000 people, right? You only sell 15,000 people. We're playing that at the SCG, which seats how many? 40,000?
46. Yep.
You're asking 46,000 people to come and sit there all day. Probably not when they can go and do something else.
On a hot day too, yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard, right? We don't have any smaller grounds than that are still international cricket ready. Yes, Monaco might be an exception. So that's the discussion that we have constantly as well as in our team as well. It's like, well, okay, we're not going to fill out the MCG. We're not going to get 85,000 people there if it's not a World Cup final. So do we want to be playing there? Probably not when there's not as many people there, but then there's nowhere else to play it. So
in Melbourne there isn't, yeah.
Yeah, so
Junction Oval.
we just don't have similar facilities to make it look better if people are worried about the perception.
Yeah.
I've been big on this for a few years now that I just don't think there's room for ODI cricket and international ODIs and T20 internationals
in the one summer.
In the one summer, I just feel like it's got to be one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your idea of matching it up to what's coming up. And I'd sort of stuck with, I think international T20s need to go altogether, but I actually like the idea of what's leading up to being the way to go. So, yeah, I like the idea. It's just a matter, I'm not sure about how the tri-series works maybe.
It won't happen anytime soon because of the future tours. Imagine
It's
sitting
so
down the
choppy.
ICC and having to work out a future tours. And then you got things like, oh, hang on a minute, the Windies and the men's are coming out back-to-back summers. Oh, we'll just have to deal with that, whatever. That's obviously the thought, because no way in the world you design that.
That's
but
right.
that's down the list of priorities. It'd be an absolute nightmare to try and get your head around.
It absolutely would be. I mean, imagine sitting on that panel trying to work it out. You just have to find the best AI system you can. You just do that. Just punch it in the computer. These are the teams we need sorted out. Go do it.
The amount of time I've spent slating the schedule, I can't go anywhere near that table. Nor will they ever let me anywhere in that door.
Fair enough. Now, a reminder of the third one-dayer. It's going to be across the Triple M network, and you can listen to it through the Listener app on Tuesday night in Canberra. Matt Short, by the way, we spoke about him. He twinged his hammy, unfortunately, so he's been replaced by Benny McDermott, who can hit a ball, and he's hitting the ball well. If his recent innings for Queensland is any example, unbeaten 146 for the Bulls. So Benny McDermott is in. He's been exposed to international cricket already, of course. Now, a man that's just emerging on that scene. Earlier in the summer, I spoke to WA fast bowler Lance Morris about his origins, his nickname of the Wild Thing, and how he believes in ghosts. True story.
There we go.
We'll get a reaction to it in our next segment. But here's Lance, and after the break, we'll be back to talk the women's series against South Africa and on all the goss. And I want some from both of you from the Australian Cricket Awards. Here's Wild Thing. Well, Lance, do I call you Lance? Is that what your mates call you, or where are we going with this thing? I know your nickname's Wild Thing, but surely your cricket mates don't go around calling you Wild Thing at the top of their voice.
It's been shortened to Thing or Les. As I was just saying before, whenever I order coffee, I normally get Les or Lex or you name it. It's not Lance, though, whenever I get it back.
It's a very traditional name, isn't it, Lance? Is it a family heirloom or something, is it? Or?
Honestly, I don't know where it's come from. I've tried to question. I think my old man came up with it, but I think he just thought it sounded all right and went with it.
But Thing's pretty good, though. Just people walking around calling you Thing.
Thing, yeah. It's a hard one to shorten, but yeah, it's not too bad.
Mate, tell us a bit about your upbringing, your background. Growing up in Perth, was it? And found a cricket ball pretty quickly?
So I actually grew up down in Dunsborough in the southwest of WA.
Okay.
Nice little touristy town.
Surf spot?
Yeah, I don't actually surf, though. I chose to spend my Saturdays running around in the dirt chasing leather, so... I'm into my fishing a little bit and stuff like that, but... I absolutely loved growing up down there. It was such a good childhood. So, did my schooling down there and then moved up to Perth when I was about 17 years old.
For sport? For
cricket?
Basically,
it got to the point where I was having the chats of like, all right, do I take cricket pretty seriously? And if that is the case, you have to move into like the premier cricket setup, which is only in Perth. So, I got... linked up with Scarborough Cricket Club, and things progressed from there.
Things progressed for Thing. When you were growing up, is it a Cam Green type situation where it's cricket summer, winter footy, you were good at both? You had to make a choice, or was it all cricket?
Cricket and footy growing up, for sure, but I think I was a bit of a late bloomer and my body didn't quite fill out until I was in year 12, so I absolutely loved my footy, but I always knew that cricket was pretty much the A1 thing that I wanted to go for. So maybe in another lifetime I'd be streaming out of the forward line or something like that. That'd be awesome. But it's sort of around, again, like 16, 17 years old, I went, all right, let's go cricket.
Were you always express pace, or was it something that only happened when your body started to develop a bit?
I was always like really skinny and whippy, and I think I had like fast twitch fibre. I think I could always throw a ball a fair way, and like I'd go right in school javelin and things like that you don't think of. But I guess that translates to bowling cricket ball fast. So,
when did you realise that you could put fear in the eyes of people 20 yards away?
To be honest, I think it didn't really click until my first session with Scarborough Cricket Club. Yeah. Because like I was a country kid moving up to Perth, and I felt like I was way out of my depth, and honestly thought I don't know where I'm at. Like, but we had an indoor session at it was actually out at Wanneroo, and there's this like renowned old Wanneroo shed, and the lighting is horrific. The Astro's peeling away, and it's pretty run down. And I rocked up. I was running in off about 5 steps and trying to bowl the speed of light. And I was actually letting them go all right. So, the thud of the cricket ball smashing into the metal behind the batters was, it was nice to see. So.
Because there is that feeling for a batter, I dare say, when you face something like that. It's the look of, and we'll beep this out, it's the look of, F*** this, what am I doing with my life? Do you notice that? Did you notice that as a kid when you could, get things going pretty rapidly?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's definitely that element of fear. So I guess, especially when back in those days, I genuinely didn't know where they were going. So they were coming fast, and they could have been at your head on the full, or they could have been at your stumps every now and then.
Have you ever let go of the Brett Lee Beamer that he let go in a couple of international games against New Zealand once in a while?
Occasionally in the backyard to my brother, but I don't think I've done it in an actual game.
How were those backyard battles with your brother?
They actually got pretty heated, to be honest. So, we had a nice little setup in the backyard there, so we spent a lot of time out there battling away.
Just the one brother, or was it
just the one older brother? So,
okay.
Yeah.
So was he bowler, batter?
He's a leg spinner who bats a bit.
Okay.
So, he definitely went down a different route to me, but I think he would like to take a little bit of what I got out of him. So, for a bit of credit, I guess.
So basically, he tried to make life as unenjoyable as possible at times for you, being the little brother, and you'd get him back by just getting I don't know, would you use a hard ball in the backyard, or was it a tennis ball?
Probably like an incredi ball. Like it would bruise. Yeah.
And you bruised him a few times?
Yeah, a couple of times, but he'd get me back as well. It was pretty even back in the day, I think.
Okay, fair enough. What about progressing to men's cricket and going up the ladder in cricket? How did it happen for you?
So I guess pretty quickly when I came up to Perth, I got into like some pathway games, and I had a little bit to do with David Fitzgerald, who was basically the talent ID manager of WA cricket, and they took me in under their wing pretty quickly. So I was really grateful for that, and I'm looking back on it now, I didn't realise like how raw I was and like how much time I needed in a first class system to come good. But extremely grateful for the privilege that they gave me, taking me on.
Unlike the shed in Wanneroo, do you now know fully every time that you run into bowl where they're going?
I think year by year it's getting better and better. So we're heading in a nice direction.
That's good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Handy for your career. But have you got a way of thinking at the top of the mark? You just want to bowl as quick as possible? I'll rephrase that. Have you, as you've developed, had to think more at the top of your run about how you're going to deliver a set of deliveries as opposed to just one ball at a time as quickly as you can? Yeah,
it's definitely... I think that's the way my game's probably progressed. And naturally, as you go up the levels, I guess the big difference is, first of all, consistency, and then game smarts pretty much. So, I've learnt a lot. If I think back to like maybe my first BBL season when I was at Melbourne Stars, for example, I was just literally running in and trying to bowl as fast as I could, and I didn't have any change-ups, and I didn't structure an over well at all. So I've learnt a lot, and then naturally that progresses and translates into other forms of cricket and things like that. So
I love asking fast bowlers this, though, and I'll ask this of you because you're as fast as it gets pretty much. When do you either see it or feel it or hear it or smell it, fear in a batter? When things are happening really well for you and they're coming out really well?
I think it's like you've bowled your first ball, and then you can see you're keeping an eye on the batter between walking back and your next delivery. You can see they're jumping around, they're waking themselves up a little bit, or even like when you take your cap off and give it to the umpire, they're sort of like jumping around and just waking themselves up, slapping themselves in the face. Generally that's a little giveaway.
So there's little body language signs.
Yeah, definitely body
little
language.
Cues.
And I'm probably learning to capitalise on that a bit more.
Yeah. Well, if it was me facing you, you'd pretty much notice when I turned around and you see this brown patch at the back of me. I reckon if you were going in our backyard. Hey, we're going to do, because you're a quick bowler, we're going to do something along the lines of speed dating. here.
Okay.
Not that I want to ask you out or anything like that, but it's just to get you to know you quickly,
Yeah,
if you know what I
I
mean.
like it.
So a couple of rapid-fire questions. What type of car do you drive?
I drive a Land Cruiser 200 series, which I absolutely love.
It's not a very quick car, though. It's off
It's-
the mark.
I'm just a humble person. I'm a humble man.
Favourite streaming show?
Favourite streaming show? I love The Office, US.
The US version?
Yes.
Not the UK version?
No. I liked...
Debate that one.
Bit of both. I don't
Yeah.
mind, but Steve Carell was a ripper, I think.
Okay.
He's so funny.
Fair enough. Best fancy meal you can cook?
Oh, I'm a simple man. I don't know. I think... I like to think I cook a really good steak.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you were going to say baked beans on toast. How do you de-stress?
Bit of golf, walking the dogs. Nothing too special, to be honest. But yeah, I just like trying to get out of the city a little bit and going to the beach and things like that. Yeah,
Country boy.
yeah,
Fair
actually.
Understandable. Do you believe in ghosts?
I'm not gonna lie. Recently, I thought I had an encounter
Where?
in my bathroom. The sink turned on, and
Really?
I was home alone, and things got out of hand. I was like, maybe not. I don't know. Unconfirmed. I don't know.
Well, how did it all wash out? How'd you get to sleep that night?
I had to, like, it took a while to get to sleep.
You booked yourself into a hotel somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. No, it took a
The
while
tap
to get.
turned on by itself.
It genuinely turned on by itself.
You sure?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Any encounter since?
My partner
Yeah.
said her hairbrush hit the floor in the bathroom, so I don't know. There's a couple of things adding up here.
Was it you with the hairbrush and it was her with the tap? Maybe.
We're both out at the time, so we'll both.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's either that or you got a stalker.
that's it. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, awesome. That's a better thought, isn't it? You'd rather ghosts. Best subject at school.
Probably phys ed. No,
Okay. Yeah.
I like my sports. Yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough. Not maths. Not 3 in maths.
No, I didn't care for that much, to be fair.
What is your spirit animal? That's a deep question.
Probably something that's just like flat out, like does everything at 110%.
Leopard.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Mentors in the current setup with people like legends of the Australian cricket team, the fast bowling unit, Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins. Have you had much to do with them, been able to tap into their minds about how they go about their business and how much longevity they've had in the game?
Yeah, to be fair, I did have actually a decent amount of time with them over the last 6 months probably. So, naturally, as you do when you're in a training session or a training environment, you're just having those like organic conversations that just come about, and they're really approachable and easy to talk to as well. And they've been really good. Like, it's nice to see that they have something they're working on as well. Like they're at the top of their game, but they've got little things that they're tinkering on, and they're always trying to get better.
Pat has obviously had his issues with back injuries and stress fractures and hot spots in their back. And was there anything discussed between you two, given your recent issue and getting over it, or there's not a lot you can do? Just be patient.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. To be fair, I think it just goes to show if you bank a little bit of time, as much as it is frustrating when you want to just crack on and get back into playing, if you prioritise your body, then it pays off long term. I mean, he's been fit for a long time now, he's an absolute workhorse. So I think if I can get to that sort of level of match fitness, that would be absolutely ideal.
Can you hit 160 k's an hour?
I think I'd probably tear my side off doing that, but maybe we have to a speed gun that's a bit off on the day or something like that.
Well, talking to the Land Cruiser, I'm not sure the Land Cruiser can get 160 comfortably. It might on an open freeway. But what's your limit when you start redlining? What is it, 155?
I think, so the fastest I've been clicked at was actually a red ball game down in Tassie, and it was 153.
Okay.
So...
Did that feel like the quickest ball that you've ever bowled?
It didn't. So...
Don't trust the gun.
Yeah, don't trust it at all. No, I don't know. I think there's been days where I felt like, all right, this is the quickest I've bowled. And like, it's just something clicks and everything feels relaxed and smooth. And on that day, I was so clunky and I felt horrible, and I think I was just getting angry and running in and trying to bowl fast. So
Yeah.
I think we're working with some technical things at the moment to hopefully unlock maybe a little bit more pace, or whether it's that or just bowling faster for longer.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit left in the bank, hopefully.
Okay, so maybe 160 might be possible.
Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? Don't tear your side off, though. So before we get to the South Africa series, just before the break, we heard from Lance Morris. Do you guys believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
Don't just nod it, say it. It's a podcast.
There's a camera. Yeah, I do. I love
Really?
I love everything paranormal on the telly too. I love watching it.
Okay.
I do love that stuff, but I do feel as though it's just all made up.
Yeah.
So
You love that. Okay, so
I
you're
love
sitting in the fence?
sci-fi.
Yep.
But it's not because I believe in it.
Okay, so
necessarily.
we've got one believer, we've got one on the fence,
Yeah.
and we've got absolute one
I'm one of those
non-believer.
ones
It
you need
has
to
to
show
be
me.
the biggest load of garbage known to man. Ghosts?
No, it's a thing.
I need
watched
to be
this.
shown.
There's this amazing series on. I've got to find the name of it. I'll let you know. On Netflix, it's like a 6-part series, and it goes like each episode is like a form of whatever it is. So it's like a medium, or they speak to people who've died and come back to life, sort of thing. And it's
Righto.
fascinating.
Okay.
Right,
I
okay.
believe in all of it. I reckon it's amazing.
Yeah, well, we need my wife in here, Rach, because she totally believes in it.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I take the PI55
Oh,
out
I
of it
bet you
all
do.
the time. It's like, it's not right. It's wind. It wasn't a ghost closing the door upstairs. It's like, yeah.
I
anyway.
need cold hard facts shown to me.
Look at Heels giving me the look as if saying, yeah, righto, pal. But there has been no...
Open
You just
your
wait,
mind.
mate. You just
Open
wait,
your
mate.
mind.
Open your
Yeah.
mind.
They're coming for you.
Yeah, they are now.
I can't wait to be one. With ghosts in Australian cricket, there is that famous story of the northeast, Durham, part of the world that you know pretty well. That castle that Shane Watson he couldn't sleep in or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Was just before your time in the one day series.
Yeah, it was just before I broke into the one day team, maybe a year or two before. But it was I think Watto was involved. I reckon Roy Simons was involved. I think Brett Lee somehow, and Watto was nowhere. He was panicking from all reports. So need to get the finer details of that. Maybe get Watto on at some
There's
point.
one in Derby too. Like you stay out of town a bit, the Priory, whatever it's called. That that hotel is like massively haunted. It's weird.
You stayed in it?
Yeah, we stayed there for the World Cup and an Ashes series.
So what made
Who did you see there? Did you see anyone?
I didn't see anyone, but it's like got that vibe.
Okay.
You walk
William
in there and
Shakespeare
you're like,
walking
whoa.
through the joint or something
Yeah, you
like
just
that.
get chills.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
Even you, non-believer, I reckon you'd feel like you'd feel it.
just take a melatonin and knock me out. And I didn't know about it.
Hang on, that's cheap.
Did you lose any sleep over it? You were worried that, I don't know, some...
No, I'm not. It doesn't worry me. Like I'm not
Okay.
scared.
Yep.
But yeah, that place is definitely haunted.
Okay.
It's got a vibe.
What was it about it that made you feel like it was? Yeah, what's
got a
the
vibe.
So just
It's got a chills vibe. You walk
Just
in
an
there.
aura about the place.
Yep. Genuine.
Okay. Intangible stuff.
Well, when the South Africa women's team got back to the hotel on the weekend in Adelaide, after the one day, it looked like they'd seen a ghost, I reckon. Not that I believe in them, but
Goodness me.
that was a smasher. What did you do to them? It was a T20 series, good series, 2-1. What happened? What clicked for you guys in Adelaide on the weekend?
Our one day game at the moment is just really solid. It seems like T20 cricket, everyone's getting closer and closer. Teams are really coming hard at us and coming after us quite a lot, and it's like a great opportunity for us to re-evolve and try and take our game to a next level, which is great. But in the one day format, which is a little bit longer, and you got to do it for a longer period of time. If you're going to come at us, you got to do it for 50 overs. It's hard to do, but I just thought with the ball we started really, really well, and once you get that side sort of 3 or 4 down in the first 10 to 15 overs, it's really hard to come back. So I just thought we were outstanding. We were clinical, which was great, apart from 2 boneheads that got out. But the rest of the game was pretty flawless, which was cool.
Why did one of them get out?
At least, mine was just a bonehead of a shot. But at least Phoebe's like nicked a good one.
Yeah,
and went
that's
away.
right.
I just charged at a bowler and tried to smack it for 6 and got out. So, but yeah, Beth Mooney was outstanding to finish icy game as well. But their bowlers were unbelievable.
Ferg, you watched it.
Yeah.
How close to a perfect game was it? The captain over here will never say perfect game because she wants improvement
Can
from
always
us.
be better.
Always, that's right.
Yeah.
Always be better. But how close to a perfect performance was that 8-wicket
It was
win?
very close. I just loved the combination of Megan Schutt and Kim Garth at the top. I just think they complement each other so well. Kim taking the ball away from the right-hander and Megan back in, which, I mean, we know how successful she's been over 200 games, but that uniqueness of that big in-swinger is something people still struggle with today. They can come out there with a game plan ironed on, we're ready to take it on this way, and then Megan just doesn't allow you any room to move. Just so impressive, but just beautifully backed up at the other end. I just think they never recovered. Like, they just never felt like they could get any rhythm into their game. Dot ball central. That's what we noticed. It was just the ability, and you set great fields, I thought, brought cover and mid-wicket really straight. It was great to watch, though, because you could see you got a really good grasp on what the conditions were doing, and that's something the Australians do better than anyone else. They read the conditions better.
Anything to add there?
No, just keep talking. I
can. How long have we got?
The bowlers are really adamant on length, like line, yes, but their length and what length they need to bowl in every condition. And I thought they just came out and nailed it at Adelaide, which, when you win the toss and you bowl first in a one-day game, you want to take early poles, otherwise you're in strife.
Yep.
Yes.
But they just didn't miss from the first over, and I thought it was awesome.
And there is a little bit in the new ball, in the wicket for the new ball at Adelaide. There's a bit of grass there, but once you get through that, it's fantastic batting, and that's what the Australians just didn't let South Africa do. They didn't let them into the game to expose that wonderful batting condition.
So Megan, it was a 200th and great performance for her as well, and probably a lot of people who love her were there as well. Have you got a story? Megan, she came, like, I've noticed a couple of interviews, she goes, I'm not really one to big myself up and talk about myself and this, that and the other. Have you got something for her? Is she
in
totally
front
different?
of everyone else? But she does in front of us. I was having to think about it. Actually, we were at training just before, and I asked her, I had to have a story, and she was thinking about it as well. She goes, on field or off field? And I was like, actually, a lot of the beer-related stories involve Shooter. Yeah. But I do have a story of surviving Shooter, because for those that who don't know her, she's quite a unique character. She is what you see, but she can get quite aggressive at times. And anyway, I survived we had a few beers one night after one of the men's test matches at Lord's in London. And I was walking back to the hotel, and Darcy Brown tried to push someone into a bush, and I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, quote Darcy Brown, and then you proceeded to yeet Shooter into a bush, and then somehow got away with it. I did not die. So I would have, Tyler McGrath was literally like, and you didn't get punched in the face? And I was like, no, I somehow survived. And Shooter thought it was hilarious. And I was like, oh, God. But on field for me,
just trying to picture and international cricketers walking down the street, acting like 13-year-old boys, basically, on the way home from the last day of school.
Yes,
it happens. We went for one beer at the men's test match, and it's never just fun, is it?
No, that's right.
But I mean, on field, you just mentioned it before. I think her ability to just continually evolve her game, and it's not rocket science about why she is so good. She just continually beats the batter. No matter what opportunity you think you've got. I mean, I look back at the T20 World Cup in Australia. First game we played India, Shafali Verma came out and thought, I'm going to take Megan Shute down. She's not going to be a threat in this World Cup, and she did in that first game. Shooter bounces back in the final and gets her early on in the innings, just continually outsmarting batters who think that they've got a handle of it. It's amazing. Now,
speaking of legends, Rachel Haynes and Meg Lanning, lap of honour. You were bowing down in front of them as well.
They were so uncomfortable. Yeah. It was hilarious. For anyone who knows those two people, they were like, this is the worst day ever. They don't want the attention.
They would have been quite happy with walk out just over the rope, wave to the crowd, maybe get a nice little frame picture and walk off and then slide up. Nah.
Yeah, do a lap, off you go. But it was really cool. I'm glad that they said yes to it. I'm glad they came, because we haven't really had an opportunity to send them both off. We had a dinner with Meg in Canberra, and we've obviously had Rach around for a little while, but the opportunity for us to say thank you to them as well. They've done an amazing job for our team and our environment for a long period of time, and for us to get that opportunity was really cool. So I'm glad the public got to wave and say bye as well.
Now, speaking of plaudits, Australian Cricket Awards, the gongs. So Ash Gardner won her second Belinda Clark medal, pipping Elise Perry. It surprised a few people, because Elise polled pretty well in 2 of the 3 formats, I think, but Ash, consistency over everything, even though there's not a hell of a lot of Test cricket played.
Well, I think the Test maybe got her over the line.
Weighted.
Yeah, I think it might have been weighted differently, like the men's game. But I think that's actually being, not saying Ash didn't deserve it, please don't say that.
No.
That's actually being looked at a little bit, the voting system, as to how that how that all unfolded as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even look at the men's votes. I'm surprised Travis Head wasn't even in the top 3 for the Alan Border medal
Well,
either.
I made that point last week.
Yeah.
Was that the episode you were on? That the same number of votes, the weighting of the vote of the World Cup final was the same as the third one-dayer in the South Africa series,
Yeah.
which makes no
That's not
sense.
right.
It's 3 votes the same.
Yeah.
No, one's a little more important than the other.
That's right. Once you start talking World Cups, I think then you've got to start
Yeah.
weighting it differently. Big tournaments.
Great at
There
like
just has to be big
horse
games.
racing, like Group 1, Group 2, Group
Yes.
3, that way.
Perfect.
So anyway,
That would make sense. Good on you.
You've solved it. We're on board.
one
Yeah.
idea through, one idea. That's
You're on
one
today.
an episode. That's all I want. That's all I want. Mitch Marsh won the AB medal and one of the great speeches
Oh,
because it was short, sharp, and funny,
yes.
and there was no notes. Even though maybe he'd prepared something or he said he didn't prepare something, but no, that was great, and it spoke volumes, like how those words came out, and whatever you think about the leadership setup in Australian cricket, well, you thought better of it after that speech with Andrew McDonald and Pat Cummins. So there
I
you
thought
go.
it was fantastic.
You literally just had to look around the room
Yeah.
and there was not a dry eye, male or female, in that
Really?
room when he
Lot of
won that
dust.
award.
or,
Yeah.
or on the couches around the world.
No,
Yeah.
but it's
In the
like,
country.
and it just shows, well, A, how much winning that means, but also what he means to
Mm.
people that know him. And there's a lot of scrutiny from outside, but internally, he's dearly loved within Australian cricket. And I think everyone got an insight into that.
Who was the toughest person in the room that you wouldn't imagine see show emotion and cry at something like that, and you looked around and go, oh, it's even got to him or her? Anyone at your table?
Me. Not to me.
Love that.
Yeah.
No, it was cool though. I loved it. I'm glad that the public got to see, well, has got to see and got to know Mitch Marsh over the last
Yeah.
12 months
Yeah.
because he is a genuine character of our game and could have been lost to our game, I think. So it was really cool.
And there was Pat down the front with a big knowing nod to him, looking like James Bond, have his expensive red wine in front of him and maybe a few neat whiskies after it, knowing
No
Pat
doubt.
as well. So what we really want to know, after party, any good?
Yeah, good fun.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, as always. Yep.
Have you done your votes?
Expand, please.
Oh,
Yeah. Is there a Belinda Clark AB medalist?
Oh, yeah, Darcy Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Hands
yes.
down. Darcy Brown and Isha Guha, best on ground.
Ish
Aish is good.
as well.
Ish wasn't even at the awards. She was just at the after party.
Oh,
I didn't
is
see
that
her
right?
at the
Just
awards.
lobbed in.
Yeah, but
work,
I saw her
Ish.
at the after party and I was like, have you been here the whole time?
That's great.
So what
She
was
was
Darcy?
there.
Was Darcy just owning the dance floor, was she? Or was she just a bubbly
Yeah,
character that was...
There were a few owning the dance floor. What I will say, we flew to Adelaide the next day and had a gym session in the afternoon. It was very, very quiet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But no, Darcy was just absolutely loving life. I mean, her and her partner Louis were there, and probably the first time that he's got to interact with all these cricketers too. Same as Darce. Like Brian Lara was there, like with all the people,
Yep.
and everyone's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
Brian
good.
Lara's at Crown Casino." So it was pretty cool. But yeah, owned the dance floor, owned the roulette tables afterwards.
Oh.
And just she
Look
was on
out.
fire.
Fantastic.
Right.
What about Brian Lara, by the way, at the SCG on Sunday? Just comes in for a Triple M stint and says, oh, by the way, on air, Shaggy and Sean Paul can't get in.
Yeah.
Because they got ripped jeans. They tried to get in the members' entrance.
Right.
Just drops that in.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah. And the guards have said, not today, boys. You're not coming in here. What do you mean?
Was Brian at the awards as well, or he
Well, I
did
don't
what
know if
Anish
he was
did?
at the awards either, but he was there at
He
the
was
after party. So I'm like, all these people were here, and it was cool. But
awesome.
yeah, I'm not sure that they were there for the dinner. I don't think that they were part of that, but they were there.
Ferg, have you got an MVP of MVP? You weren't at the awards the other
No,
night, were you?
no.
But have you got an MVP of MVPs for the AB medals and Belinda Clark medals that you've attended?
Oh, gee whiz. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I
here.
am. And I want a name. Not letting you get away with it.
A name.
Yes.
I'll tell you what,
not
Aaron
gonna-
Finch has always got some.
Yes.
He's got the ability to go deep.
Well, he
and
doesn't have
just
to get on
with
a-
consistency. And it's not that he gets out of control. He just has the ability to go for a long period of time and see most people out. So I'd say Aaron Finch just for consistency and ability to keep going.
Well, he's got the advantage of not having to get on a plane the next day.
That is a huge
Yeah,
advantage.
it is
as
a huge
opposed to you lot who all had sunnies on the next day on that flight.
Yeah, but I mean, you know it. You know that we're training, but it still doesn't stop you, does it? Well, I love that when the night's over, awards are done, and the curtains unfold, and there's the after party afterwards. And I'm like, it's always funny seeing like who's struggling to get up out of their seat because you know when you go to awards nights and the wine's just never ending.
Yes.
So you're like, oh, I'm just having one glass, but the glass never ends. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I haven't peed for like 3 hours because I haven't been allowed to leave, and you stand up and you're like, bang. It often gets a few in high heels, that's for sure.
Any fangirl moments, or you knew everyone in the room anyway?
No, but Brian Lara did down in the casino later. He said, I've just won 15 grand. We're going to the mahogany room. You better come. And we were like, I don't think I'm going to fit in the mahogany room. Like, I'm not sure I have enough money to spend there. No, you go. You go ahead. We'll follow you. And we were like, we're not going.
Yeah. It needs that 15
No, that
grand.
was cool. Yeah.
Wow. Not bad at all. Risers and fallers, apart from Brian Lara, who we've just found his 15 grand to the good, might help pay for his big party back in the Windies that he has in a couple of months' time. So
maybe you can ask him if he held on to that in the mahogany room or not.
I think a few blokes in the commentary box last night booked their flights, didn't they? Try and get over for it.
I think so. Now, Risers, we're recording this on Feb 5, which happens to be Darren Lehmann's birthday. South Australian legend. What's your favourite Buff story?
Oh, Jesus. There's a few. I'll tell you what, quite often, you'd get to the back end of a Shield game and there wasn't, we might have been done with the bat for the game. We're trying to knock a side over and you knew Buff had a couple of beers the night before. So you always watch the senior players, right? So this was my first experiences with Buff were fantastic, but he was always meeting you at the door to the change rooms in the morning with a coffee. Regardless of how many beers you knew he had the night before. He was always the first one there with a cup of coffee. So that was a lasting memory. But also, he was the first one when I got a rookie contract. So I knew all the young blokes around me. We were turning up to training, so I obviously hid over with them. But he was the first one to come over from the senior squad, single me out and introduce himself and say, welcome to the squad. Great to have you around. If you need anything, let me know. And that is a lasting memory. And I feel very lucky to be able to know him as a mate. But that is a lasting memory that will stick with me forever. And probably it was probably the formation of the way I tried to handle young players when they came into a squad. Yep. That's how strong cultures build, I reckon, with people like that. And it's no surprise, I think, then when everyone saw him go into the Australian side, he was always seen as a great guy to go to for Ricky when he was, and then the other leaders in the side, he was almost seen as a father figure within the Australian dressing room, and for very good reason, because he was just such a level, calm head in a dressing room at all times, but also he was very thoughtful towards other players in the team.
There you
just
go.
A fantastic man.
Happy birthday, Buff. Did you ever take him up on if you ever need anything, like as in like he could get you onto a golf course somewhere or open up a function room for?
I'll tell you, no, it's interesting. Like he would usually be on the front foot. He'd have it organised before you even thought of it. Buff, very good with the social side of things. Just what a character.
I was going to say that Australian men's team was as social as it had ever been before when he was coach. I will say that.
Yeah,
fair enough.
The other thing was actually with both his retirement games for South Australia, we ended up at the pubs in full kit with we didn't get changed. A couple of guys had spikes on, we're at the pubs.
Really?
Yeah, we're literally, that was his thing.
So
we're not getting changed. No one's having a shower and getting
Yeah.
changed. We're straight to the Oxford or the Archer for both his retirement games in full kit.
And how long?
That happened in the World Cup too, 2015. The boys went out in their full kit. So that's a Buff thing.
I think it's a Buff thing.
There you go.
How long did you stay in full kit for?
Yeah, the rest of the night.
Rest of the night?
Yeah.
Next morning?
Don't know how long. Depended on how long you stayed.
Everything
up,
closes at
saw the sun
midnight
come
in
up.
Adelaide, doesn't it?
No, Adelaide's the other way. Adelaide stays
What, really?
open, yeah.
Surely you're down at Glenelg in the morning having a swim in your full kit.
That would be
Jump
rogue.
in. Yeesh. Still with the Risers, New Zealand all-rounder Rachin Ravindra scored a maiden test century against South Africa and just decided to double up on the back of that, although he did spend 20 minutes on 199
Oh, goodness me.
against South Africa B over there in New Zealand. And as we said, we're recording on Monday before the fourth day of the India-England test, but we can't let that delivery from Jasprit Bumrah go on Ollie Pope. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I have never seen a group of stumps just be completely dismantled the way that
It was
happens.
like there was
Obliterated.
TNT in them.
Yeah.
When the ball hit it like set off a chain reaction, an Oppenheimer type reaction
Yeah.
that just
I mean, they don't put them in that tight over there, to be fair. They're a little bit loose
No.
anyway, but sometimes, that doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
I've never seen the stumps just go.
I do wonder if they're doing it for effect because
Yeah.
it does look bloody impressive, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Sean Tate a couple of times in one-day cricket, I just watched him destroy sets.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fun, especially tail enders.
Do they
but
break the stumps? Have you
he's
ever
bro-
seen
I've
it?
seen him break a stump. He snapped one in half at Adelaide Oval one day.
Really?
Yeah, but that happens every now and then. There's a
Yeah.
little weakness in the wood or whatever.
Stumps aren't wood anymore, so no.
No, not anymore. It won't. No, but back in those days,
So
you'd see one snap every now and then.
did you have to take, I don't know if you're in the cordon, did you have to take cover or anything like that? Or
It was more so when the stump stayed intact and Tatey was bowling. I was usually at gully, so I was out of the firing line. But Graham Manu used to have to duck and dive the stumps
Really?
after Tatey knocked people over. The stumps, if they got a cartwheel on, you'd see it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like they bounce and they
It's,
roll.
it's more scary when they clip the top of off because
Yeah.
like you're like celebrating, but then the ball's still coming at
Oh,
you
yeah.
and it's rising off the stumps at
Yeah.
you. So you're literally just trying to duck out of the way.
fair enough. Well, didn't happen to Ollie Pope. Justin
no.
Bumrah. They went in every direction.
Oh,
One went to
Surely-
square leg, I think.
Surely if you get out like that, you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
off you go.
Moving on.
Couldn't do anything about
There
that.
you go. More rises. Shield returns of Nick Maddinson and Billy Stanlake. 14 months between Shield games for Maddo, who scored 104 against South Australia. Stanlake returned for Tassie with 8 wickets. Gay Bell took 10 at the Gabba as well. So some good performance in the Shield. As we're recording right now, Shield cricket still going. We'll sum it up later in the week. And got to mention this as well. This is a riser. It's got nothing to do with cricket. It's a new podcast series called Secrets We Keep. Nest of Traitors. It's about a Soviet mole in ASIO during the Cold War. So that will be an interesting story.
Jeez, yeah.
It's got me thinking, is Brad Haddon a Kiwi spy in Australian cricket?
Ooh,
is he
hello,
really
hello.
working for the Black Caps?
Gee
Imagine
whiz.
that, if that came out.
It'd be so good.
There is less than zero chance of
Haddon.
that being.
He's just so against them that it could be plausible.
The best thing is, I'm not sure if you know this, the best thing is he's going over there to call the test
That's
series.
right.
Does anyone, if anyone could DM us that knows anyone who works in Kiwi Customs, just to give him a bit of a rattle up when he gets in the country?
Could you imagine?
Willow Talk, Instagram or TikTok, slide into our DMs with that particular piece of information and maybe get him on Border Force. What's the series called?
Border Force?
Border Force, is it?
I think that's
Border
it.
security.
Border,
Yeah.
Border Security,
the
that's
one.
it.
Well done, Midge.
Yeah, there'll be a Kiwi
Watch
version
too
of that.
much TV.
We'll watch him on that. Yeah, does it have ghosts in it? Fallers. Obstructing the field is a
Oh,
topic.
God.
Oh, goodness. me.
WA New South Wales Shield game. You've both seen this. Chris Green blocks a ball thrown at him by Charlie Stobo while standing at the crease, but he was outside of his crease. Umps chatted, said not out. Now, he literally just he plays a shot to stop the ball from, and it was going to hit the stumps.
Yep.
WA appealed. I think it was Wayne Clark in commentary. He was going, nah, don't go out in this path. But they appealed. Ump said no. What say you guys? Out? Not out?
Oh, look, I'm a not out. I think common sense prevailed there. If he decided to just let the ball go through and hit him on the pads, like it's not going to get to the stumps anyway. And he doesn't have to get out of the way of the ball. So he had every right to stand there and block it for mine, because if it hits him on the toe or something, like he gets it wrong and it doesn't hit him on the pad and hits him on the foot, it's not nice. So I'm happy with it.
He did roll it. It's not like it was Shamar Joseph bowling at 145 k's an hour. Rolled to him. It wasn't going to break his toe.
It was thrown.
It was thrown. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't that going that quick.
No, it wasn't. But I'm still of the thought that it's fine.
Heels?
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, I had a similar incident in December, right? If I let that ball hit me, it's going to hurt me. So why wouldn't I just play a shot? Like, I got 4 runs for it. Chris Green didn't get 4 runs for it. He wasn't smart enough to.
Did you get 4
nick
for
it
that?
off his-
Did you get 4 for that?
Yeah.
How
Really?
I should have played all innings. But like,
Didn't you get out
How
next ball
good?
though?
yep, I did. But I mean, if I let that hit me, that's going to hurt. So I'm going to defend myself.
Yep.
But I understand why they appealed.
But you were in your crease.
Yeah, I was in my crease.
So-
I understand why
Yeah,
they
and-
appealed, but common sense.
I'm saying out. See you
Yeah.
later, pal. Obstructing the field. If he was making an effort to get back in his crease, fair enough. But he was making no effort to get back in his crease. Johnny
But he
Bairstow,
was.
we hammered him for being out of his crease.
Yep.
Stay in your crease. He was out of his crease.
But he was, if you thought about it, like as he's throwing that ball, he initially took a step back and then it came at him. So he played
So
the
he
shot. So he
stopped.
technically was trying to go back.
Get back in your crease. Out, I'm saying.
Defended himself. No problems. Not out.
Play
Common
on.
sense. Love it.
What would you both know? Played for Australia.
That's
I'll
out
play
in
for-
club cricket, apparently.
Yeah. Beacon Hill under 13s. Hey, I wouldn't have left my crease. England, Zimbabwe, under 19 World Cup. The England batter was given out. Yeah, surely, I'm saying this was not out.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the vision, have a look at it. The ball was dormant at his foot, and he looked around, picked it up, and they appealed and they gave him out.
Well, yeah, I have more of an issue with the umpires on this one because surely the ball's dead, so that should be play on.
Yep.
But
I'm with you.
But in saying that, as a batter, I wouldn't do that. So
You kick it away.
just don't touch it. Just don't touch it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because you never know what the opposition's going to do.
Yeah.
If it's rolling at you, you like pick it up with your bat and like hit it to the opposition, but just don't touch it because you're opening yourself up for a problem.
I agree. You could count the number of times I picked the ball up with my glove whilst batting on one hand through 20 years of cricket.
Yep.
I just can't remember because
Don't do it.
you never did it. And if you tried to, I've watched a number of young players do it around Brad Hutton.
Yeah.
And they were very quickly put back in their
Don't
box.
even touch
Don't
it.
you touch it. I remember it. Oh, don't worry. I reckon
I've heard that
Tommy-
in stump mic a lot.
I reckon one of my
Touch
good
it.
mates, Tommy Plant, tried to do it in his debut, and it didn't go well. Anyway, but I'm with you. I think that ball is dead, and it was the umpires on field. That was their fault. They should never have allowed that because once it goes to the third umpire is effectively being told the umpires on field see the ball as being live still.
Yeah.
I got an issue with the appeal in the first place.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
but I don't want to like.
That as well.
But
If that
it's a
was an Australian team,
Yep.
Bloody Australians again. But we've got a different kind of social opinion
But that's the thing,
in the
right?
world of cricket to
It
the
is
rest
a
of the
mode of
nations.
dismissal, right? So technically, they haven't done the wrong thing. It's just this stupid spirit of cricket thing that we keep talking about, which isn't a defined set of anything. It's just something that we all believe in.
What was worse, that one or the timed out in the World Cup? Remember that one?
What's worse?
What's worse?
Did you see Angelo Matthews get out the other day?
Yeah.
Oh no, that poor fella.
To the worst ball
Yeah.
in the history of cricket.
He's having a tough run.
Timed out.
Timed out?
I'm leaning
Yeah.
towards that.
That's a stinker.
Oh, it's a horror show.
That hurt.
How did that?
That's a stinker. Anyway, speaking of stinkers, to round us out, one last fooler. The fan in the members stand. So he's got the nice shirt on.
Yep.
He's gone, yeah, righto, let's go along the cricket. Great little bar at the members stand there.
it's a great
He's probably
spot.
had 3 or 4 by this stage. Sean Abbott's nearly hit one to the moon, but it's come down. He's gone, you know what? I've got a cool pair of sunnies on. I can see this. I'm going to catch this. I'm going to catch this. Gets his hands up right in front of his face. You know what happens when you put your hands right in front of your face? You kind of lose sight of the ball. And it went through his hands and nearly through his face.
Oh,
That was
lucky.
brutal.
He's lucky he had the sunnies on. Would have been a smashed eye socket. That would have been really ugly, I reckon.
I've read some of the stuff around it, and they were saying like he's the best fielder in their competition or whatever, and he like hasn't dropped one for ages, and then he dropped that one. They were like, and they were saying lucky it was him because if it was anyone else, they would have like gone straight through and like, knocked him out.
Not entirely sure he's playing next weekend because he's going to be, unless can you play with an eye patch on like a pirate?
I don't reckon.
Might be
Test
able
his
to.
ability.
You can try.
He's give it a crack. Give it a crack. That was Willow Talk this week. Best of luck in the one days to come this week, Hill. So back to back at North Sydney Oval.
North Sydney Wednesday, Saturday. So looking forward
How
to
good.
that.
Sweet. Hopefully some good weather around. And
Yeah.
Ferg, you're off to Canberra. By
Yes.
the time you listen to this, you might have already done your work at Manuka for the third one day.
Hopefully
But
the Aussies get another win.
thanks for dropping by. And Hads, get well soon, mate.